Hey guys, and welcome back to this week's tutorial. I'm really pumped for this one. I don't really know why, but I've been seeing a ton of the crochet vest trend, you could call it. So I figured it's my turn to try my hand at this. And these yarns that I'll be using are a worsted weight yarn. And of course, I'll be using a 5mm crochet hook because I hardly use anything else. I've already gone ahead and whipped up one of the two bands that we'll need for our crochet vest. And this is the pattern that I'll be looking at recreating for you guys. So to start my band, I'm going to create a slip knot. Bring in my 5mm crochet hook. And I'm going to start by chaining 7 plus 1 for turning. I'm going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, plus my 1 for turning corners. And now to start my first row, I'm going to place 1 single crochet in every stitch in the row. So looking here at my chain, I'm going to skip my first stitch from the hook because that's my chain 1 space, and I'm going to go into the second stitch from the hook and place 1 single crochet. So I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. With 2 on my hook, yarn over and pull through both. So to show you guys again, looking here at my next stitch, I'm going to add 1 single crochet. I'm going to insert my hook and pull up a loop. With 2 on the hook, yarn over and pull through both. So now I have 2 single crochets, and I'm just going to repeat this for the entire chain. So when I finish this row, I should have 7 single crochets and 1 for turning. Coming in here for my last stitch. Here's my completed row. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. In order to create the ribbing on my band, I'm going to follow a pattern of 2 rows of front post stitching and 2 rows of back post stitching. And that pattern will be repeated for the entire band. So looking here at my first stitch, I'm going to enter through the front, wrap around the post, and poke out through the front. So now my post is resting on the front of my crochet hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both. And that is my first front post stitch. To show you again, even slower, I'm going to insert my hook into the front of the stitch, wrap around the post, and poke back out through the front again. Yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both. So I'm just going to repeat that front post stitch for the entire 7 stitches. So for your very last stitch, there's not really a post to wrap around. I'm simply going to pick up that stitch like a normal single crochet and finish out the row. So that's our second row completed. I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to do a second row of front post stitching. So entering the stitch through the front and poking back out and finishing that single crochet. Enter through the front of the stitch, wrap around and poke back out. Yarn over, pull through, and finish that stitch. And to start my next 2 rows, I'm going to be using a back post stitch. So in order to do the back post, I'm going to enter the stitch through the back of my work, wrap around that post, and poke back out. So now as you can see, that post is resting on the back side of my crochet hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through. And with 2 on the hook, yarn over and pull through both. And that's our first back post stitch. To show you again, I'm going to enter my stitch through the back, wrap around, and poke back out on the back side. And again, that post is resting on the back of my crochet hook. Yarn over and pull through. And with 2 on my hook, yarn over, pull through both. So just repeating that back post stitch for the entire row. Take your time and be really careful about what stitches you're picking up. In my opinion, the back post is a little bit more tricky than the front, but using a back post stitch as well as a front post gives a really unique pattern. And just like with the other rows, I don't want to forget to pick up that very last stitch in the row. So there's my yarn. I'm gonna pick that up and finish with a regular single crochet. So that's my 4th row completed. I'm gonna chain 1 and turn my work. To make my 5th row, I wanna make my 2nd row of back post stitches. And once again, we're gonna finish that back post stitch for the entire row. So now I'm just going to continue the pattern of 2 rows of front post stitching followed by 2 rows of back post. And I'm going to do this for a total of 52 rows. So I'm just going to keep whipping this up until I get an entire band like this one. All right, so now I'm back and I've finished my band and it's time to start working on the body of the vest. Picking up where I've left off at the end of my band, I'm going to begin by chaining 2. To create the checkered pattern for this vest, I'll be alternating the 2 colors every 6 stitches. After my chain 2, I'm going to yarn over and begin placing double crochets here in the top of this band. So here at my very first stitch, I'll place a double crochet. So finding my next gap, pulling up a loop, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Again, yarning over, finding a gap right here, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So now I have 4 stitches. Again, I'm going to insert, place my 5th double crochet, and here for my 6th, I'm going to pull through my first 2 loops, and before I close out that double crochet, I'm going to grab my 2nd color. So now I'm just grabbing my secondary color and adding it to my hook. And I'm going to finish out that double crochet with my new color. So now that I have my new color attached here, I'm going to continue placing 6 more double crochets. So looking here into my next gap, I'm going to place 1, finding the next gap, and I'm going to do this 6 times again. So at this point I have 5 stitches, and to finish out my 6th stitch, I'm going to pull through 2, and with 2 remaining, I'm going to drop this working yarn and pick up my previous color. And I'll pull through those last 2 loops with my new color. So to show you again, I'll place 6 double crochets. There's 1, there's 3, 4, there's 5 stitches, and for the 6th one, we're going to change out our yarn again. So pulling through those first 2 loops, I'm going to drop my working yarn and pick up my new color and just pull through those last 2 loops. And I'll just repeat this until I reach the end of my row. In order to create the checkered squares, I'll be repeating the same colors on top of each other for 3 rows at a time. And here at the end, I'm going to chain 2. For the first 6 stitches, I'm going to keep the same exact color of this dark purple and place them right on the top here. For the first stitch, I'm going to bring this lilac color with me just to turn the corner. Go into my very first stitch and place my double crochet. And now I'm going to work like normal and finish those 6 stitches. And here at my 6th stitch, don't forget to change out to your new color. Starting with the next color, I'll place 6 directly into the top of those stitches. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, and once again, here at my 6th stitch, I'm going to change out to my second color. I'm just going to continue this pattern and finish out my second row. To start my third row, I'm going to repeat the same exact steps that I used on my previous row. And there's my first double crochet. Once again, I'm going to finish out a total of 6 stitches in this color. And at my 6th stitch, I'm going to switch out to my next color. I'll continue to mimic the same exact steps until I reach the end of my 3rd row, and then I'll come back and show you how to change up for your 4th. At the end of my 3rd row, I need to finish up my last stitch here, but I need to remember to switch out to my new color. So here's my last double crochet, pull through 2, and now I'm going to switch out to my new color. To start the 4th row, I can chain 2 and turn. So now that I have my opposite color here ready to go, I'm going to yarn over and place your new color on top of the next 6 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here at the 6th, change back to the first color. At my next 6 stitches here, I have my alternate color on top. At the end of my 6, change back. And now that you can kind of see this new pattern that I have going on, I'm going to repeat it for the next 2 rows. To start my 7th row of this pattern, I need to begin again with my dark color. So I'm going to go into my first loop and bring that new color with me, tuck it away behind. And now we're just working the next 6 stitches with that original dark color. And like you guys have seen already, I'm just working down my row, alternating every 6 stitches between my dark and my light yarn. And after my 9th row, I've already cut my yarn and tied off my ends. In order to make the decrease for the armhole, I've gone ahead and added stitch markers, counting 8 stitches in from the edge of the work. So I'm going to go right into the stitch where I have my stitch marker, and grab my new thread and tie it on. And at this point I can take off my stitch marker. And now that our new yarn is attached, I'm going to chain 2. And working right back into this first stitch, I'm just going to continue adding regular double crochets until I reach my other stitch marker. I'm coming up close to the edge of my new stitch marker. I'm going to finish up my last 2 stitches. one. And right here in this very next stitch is where my stitch marker's at. I'm just gonna place my double crochet right into the top of that stitch. And at this point I can take out this stitch marker as well. And since this is my new edge, I'm gonna chain 2 and turn. So hopefully at this point you guys can see the adjusted pattern that I'm working with these new corners. So I'll continue to work the 11th and 12th row exactly the same, starting with the dark purple and switching to the light. And after my 12th row, I'm gonna start my 13th row beginning with my lilac. And right here, I'm just gonna include some measurements showing exactly how big and wide my top is. And again, keep in mind, I'm making this for my body size. Now I'm gonna show you guys how to move on to the shoulder portion of the top. So picking up where I've left off here with my new alternate color, I'm gonna chain 2 and add regular double crochets along my top section here. To make the shoulder section, I'm only gonna add double crochets for 9 stitches. So at the 9th stitch, I'm gonna stop and turn around. That's 5 stitches. Here's my 6th. 7th. 8th, and here's my final 9th. Once I get to that 9th stitch, I'm gonna chain 2 and turn the work. So now that I have the first shoulder done, I'm gonna go ahead and repeat the same exact process on the other side of the top, making sure to only go in 9 stitches and turn back. Since I already have my second band completed, I can go ahead and start working on the body of the top. Instead of starting my body piece with this first dark purple, I'm actually gonna begin with my lilac color, and I'm gonna alternate. So I should begin with a lilac and end with my lilac. Now that I have both my panels completed, it's time to start sewing up the side seams. Firstly, I'm gonna stitch together the side seams at the waist, and once I get both of those completed, I'm gonna move up to stitching together the top of the shoulders. After I have all my seams sewn up, I can turn my vest inside out and start working on the ribbing for the neckline. I'm gonna begin by attaching my yarn at the back of the neckline and working 1 single crochet into each stitch around the neck. I'm going to be following the same pattern of 2 front post stitches followed by 2 back post stitches. And after I finish my second row of the neckline, I'm going to go back and add 3 more rows of the ribbing all along the top edge.